Hello, welcome back to our YouTube. Over here on the Cookie Chat, we are just two basic bakers, letting loose and keeping it real, holding another episode down and keeping you entertained when it comes to all things small business and baking.
That's
I am
right.
Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ, and I have my beautiful co-host here with me.
Howdy, this is Melissa with Missy P Sweets.
And we are going to do a fun laid-back episode today. We're just going to do a little bit of Q&A. We've asked our Patreons as well as our Instagram followers if there are any questions about life, business, just anything out there in the galaxy that we can help answer. Speaking of Patreon and Instagram, if you are not already a member, our information will be below about joining our Patreon where we offer extra support, lessons, classes. We even have a cool text group that if you're not part of it, you should probably join that. We send out inspirational messages, reminders, sales.
I help program them and they still make my day when they pop up.
Exactly. And then on the interwebs of the socials, you can find us hanging out at Instagram, which we are almost to 10,000 followers.
Whoop, whoop.
So that should be a 23 goal, is to get to that 10K.
Big
So if
goals,
you have
guys.
not already, head over to Instagram and follow along for our fun reels and stories and everything in between.
Remember that time that all you wanted was to get to 10,000 so that you could use the link feature?
Oh my
And
gosh.
like a week before you got there, they were
No,
like,
it was the
everybody
same
gets a
weekend.
link.
I hit
You get a
10K
link. You get a
on
link.
like
You get a link.
Thursday. And then that Saturday, Instagram opened it up to everybody. I was like, that is the only reason I even like remotely cared about numbers. And then everybody got it. So it's kind of like my life story. It's like, I could do it. And then everyone's like, I've already done that. Like, okay. New
Cool.
goal.
On to the
Yeah,
next. What else can I
exactly.
do?
I'm like, I'll silently celebrate myself. So yes, all those fun things. Well, you know what? Let's get into our Q&A.
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you want to ask first question or you want me to ask?
You really liked this first question, so I'll let you ask it.
All right. So we had somebody on Patreon. We're not going to name any names because we don't want anyone to feel called out here. So this was a great question. I need some advice on how to approach taking a break from custom orders for a few months. I need to focus on some other things going on in my life so that it's best that I do not take on any orders for a few months. I am scared to not sell cookies and have my customers forget about me when I come back. What do I do? I feel like you're right in the boat on this one, Miss Melissa. What is what's your take on this?
I've definitely been there once or twice. I've moved and transitioned my business. I think the biggest key is just like the communication. And even in those times when you're not selling cookies, to continue to keep up some form of communication. So even if you're not like actively having a sale going on, um, I would still send out emails just like kind of touching base or like saying, happy holidays or what it is that I'm doing and when they can expect me back. So I think just trying to be as clear as you can, as realistic as you can with when you might be able to be back and doing something. And I do think it's also helpful to have a list of other cookiers in your area that you do trust, that you would recommend. I think it's good to have those on hand, regardless if you're taking a break or not. And I know it can feel a little counterintuitive if you're like, in the business world of like, you don't want to be giving business away to somebody else, or you don't want them to, end up wanting to use somebody else afterwards. But I kind of always had the stance of, I want the customers who want me. Um, and these are like, it is a specialty thing. So I do like, I'm in that world all the time and I know all of the people. And sometimes it can be a struggle for people who aren't in that world to be like, well, I need custom cookies for this. And if you can't, like, I just feel like it kind of like moves things forward and helps the person remember you more when you can help them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely does. No, and
So
I think regardless of if you have people or not that you're sending others to, we've talked about our email responses. If I'm booked, I have a list of customers a list of other cookiers all over the valley that I send to my customer, like, hey, here's all the locations of these people, visit their Instagrams, see whose style. Even if you send it to some, like if I sent one of my customers to Melissa, Melissa has a totally different style than I do. Still a custom cookier. So if I came back and they were like, you know what, I really liked your style, I feel like they're gonna find their way back to you on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a really good account if you're struggling with this is Chelsea from Pink Lemon. We've had her on here before and we've talked about her. She took a step back from custom cookies also, but she still does like some little ones here and there or some holidays. And she is really good about posting that on a holiday. If she's not offering those cookies, she will put, I'm not offering cookies, but here's some local cookiers in the area. And she
Mhm.
shares their Instagram accounts of like their pre-sales or their pop-ups and stuff like that. So she is also, I don't want to quote it's recycled because I know like she's actively not decorating. So she'll go back like in her archives and find different reels or videos and repost them. So I don't even feel
Mhm.
like she's out of the cookie world, if that makes sense.
Totally. Recycling content, I feel like it's underrated. And I mean, I feel like I mean, I follow a lot of, marketers on Instagram
Mhm.
and Instagram marketers especially, and they all say they're like, "Go back to some of your most liked and most popular reels and just reshare them," because the amount of people that have, like, found you since that first time that you released that is different. Your community has changed, or, like, people love being reminded of that stuff, or even just, like, sharing that stuff in your stories too. Like, you don't have to share it
Mhm.
to your feed, but sharing it in your stories. Like, just you wanna stay not necessarily, like, immediately top of mind, but you do kind of, like, want to stay somewhat, like, in people's minds. I think that's the biggest fear here of this person asking this is, like, I don't wanna be completely forgotten. So and
Well, and
have
I
to
also
start from
feel,
scratch.
yeah, with your brand, it's not just the cookies. Like we are the face behind our brand. And I
Mhm.
do know some people are hesitant about putting their face on their stories or in reels or anything in that sense. I have found, though, on times, even like when I'm on hiatus for Christmas, I take that 2.5, sometimes 3 weeks off. People
Mhm.
are like DMing, like, are you okay? Is
Yeah.
everything fine? Like, I haven't seen your post. Or they'll say, like, I look forward to your other content outside of cookies just as well.
Mhm.
So I think, again, being that face behind the brand is it doesn't necessarily need to be cookies, but like Melissa said, just checking in and posting other stuff. When you open cookies, it's like, oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah, duh. Here you go. I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of ways around that one.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great question.
Yes, I agree. And sharing other people's work too that like if you're not comfortable sharing like other cookies, other cookiers in your immediate like,
Hmm.
area or community, you can still share content from anywhere. Like I used to do that a lot. I used to like see cookies that were really beautiful just scrolling through on my page and I would share those. So you
Doesn't,
can just kind of
what does Krista call it? She
what?
shares like Krista when she shares other people's cookies. What is it? Like Saturday share favorites of the week,
Oh,
something like
yes.
that.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time, yeah. Share Saturday or something like that. Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yes.
about. Yeah. Yep, yep. So, yeah, just to kind of, like, be straightforward with communication, open and very clear about your, like, timelines and stuff like that, clear
Hmm.
about give people plenty of time if you are not going to be open for a certain holiday, let them know that in advance. Um, and yeah, just kind of try and stay relevant in some
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Awesome. What's
Hold
our
on.
next question?
The next question that we have, if you were starting over, what are 1 to 2 things you do currently that you would start implementing right away in the beginning? I think that's such a great question. Do you have anything immediately that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, time off and boundaries.
Oh, she's there, guys. She's
Yeah.
ready on that one.
I wish, like, looking back, I mean, again, I wouldn't be where I am without the things that I did. So I'm not necessarily faulting them because I feel once you know better, you do better.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel at the time of starting my business, like hustle culture was like hashtag girl boss, hashtag hustle culture, hashtag team
Yeah.
no sleep. So you kind of felt validated in the way you did things.
Mhm.
But I feel it created unhealthy work-life balance, even though that's very hard to achieve just in general.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, just really setting up those like, "Hey, here's my hard number that I'm not going above," and it sucks sometimes having to turn down business, but I have found having that peace of mind and that sanity to me is much more important than having that dollar in my bank account. Even though
Yeah.
everybody's chasing something different, I chase more the peace and the time that it allows me to have being here and not being in an office.
Mhm.
So I would definitely implement that and slower weeks. Like this year, I have done the week after a holiday
Mhm.
because unless it's a huge holiday, like Christmas is a given. Halloween, I'm already off. So my two major ones I've already covered. But Valentine's Day and Easter are my like kind of my third and fourth. They kind of rival each other. Taking a week after, making it a lot less on my
Mhm.
customs. So I'm still getting customs and doing a little bit of work, but it's not, I don't go from 65 dozen holiday cookies back to like 20 to 30 dozen
Yeah.
customs. So I'll cut down my custom orders. So then that way, like I can have a day to breathe after the holiday in general,
Mhm.
or like Valentine's fell on the week after, like my
Mhm.
holiday cookies were done. I was able to take the whole day and spend with my kids.
Yeah.
So really putting that into perspective right away, I think would have changed the game on how I operate things.
Yeah.
What about you?
My I think those are great, and I totally agree. Totally agree. It's so hard at the beginning to say no.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So hard to say no. But yeah, I swear the more that you do, the easier it is. The easier it gets. It really does.
Mhm. I feel like that carries
Um,
over to other areas of your life too,
oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, because it's just you're doing it for a balanced reason. And so when you do it and then you see the benefit of the reason that you said no, then it's like,
mhm.
"Oh, okay. Yay." So my 2 things are actually more marketing related. One of them
Oh,
is I just added a texting platform to my communication, and so Chelsea and I handle this differently. She handles all of her, like, announcements and sales and stuff to her customers via Instagram, and I have largely always had an email, platform,
mhm.
and I think the downfall with both of those a lot of times is that people just don't see them.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
It's just, like, email gets lost. I think, anytime I send it, I think, there's a percentage that bounce or that don't get opened
Mhm.
or that go to spam, and it's the same thing with Instagram, like, there are certain
It's
days
only up
where,
24
like,
hours.
yeah, it's only up 24 hours, and there's certain days where you've got a lot more views than other views on
Mhm.
your story, so it's how it happens. So, the texting, I wish that I had started from the beginning because people see their text messages.
Well, and in your
Like,
defense though, that wasn't really an option when we first started, you
that's
know?
true. That's true. But again, like, I just started it with this last presale that I did,
Yeah.
and it made such a difference, like, it really did. So I definitely suggest that. The platform that I use for it is Klaviyo. It's Klavio.
Mhm.
Klaviyo.
You're right.
Did I spell that right? Yeah, we use
Yeah.
it for Cookie Chat too. Um, so I would have done that sooner. And oh, my other one that I've started doing, which Chelsea, I know you do, is Pinterest.
Yes.
Um, you get so much traffic from Pinterest, don't
I
you?
told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am just now, like, very slowly trying to, and guys, I am not as heavy with, like, selling custom cookies anymore. My focus is more towards, like, servicing cookiers, but still Pinterest works for that. Like,
Mhm.
I
It
mean,
does.
it's basically the party planner's Google, Like, so just and it's so easy to just, like, create your pins and link them all to wherever makes sense, like your website or your Instagram or whatever it is, but it's a passive, like, traffic driver. Um, So, yeah, I would have started that from the get-go.
I like that idea. That's
Mhm.
great. I am
Mhm.
glad I started my Pinterest from the get-go
Yeah.
because, I mean, I let it go for a few months, and I had to take almost an entire, like, day to upload
Yeah.
all of my stuff, and I was like, "Dang it, I'm not doing this again." So, I will say I am patting myself on my back that I am very up to date on it. I have to add in this week's, and then after that, it'll be caught up, so
Have you ever had any pins go viral?
I don't think so. I definitely have seen ones that have, like, way higher traction and stuff like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess my idea of viral has been skewed now since TikTok has entered into the picture, and now that
Yes.
reels are a thing. Like, I will
Yeah.
yeah, even my most viewed reel, I would say is
I
not
feel like
viral.
you've transitioned your real game lately.
Girl, you gotta get back on reels. I just have not wanted to get ready and the time. I'm like, I haven't been feeling
Yeah,
the reels. Even though
I
sometimes
know.
I'm like, "Ooh, I get in a mood," but then it's like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, "I'm already in
Yeah,
my pajamas."
yeah,
So, yeah, I have some saved, but I do love reels, but lately I was just like, ugh,
yeah. No,
it was
I
taking
get
a
it.
while.
I
But
get it.
yeah.
Guys, there's lots of questions that have come in about just like how to increase sales and how to like gain traction. And check back in 2 weeks to our Patreon because we have an entire deep dive marketing episode coming in 2 weeks to Patreon. So again, it's for as little as $5 a month. For 1 month, you can get our whole spiel on all of our marketing tips and exactly like how to be utilizing all of that. So, um, but another question, this is more of like a personal one, but which we love. I feel like that
Yes.
makes us happy. Um, how did you meet your significant others?
Do you wanna go
So,
first?
well, no, you go.
My significant other and I met in high school because we are high school sweethearts. So, I was dating my ex-boyfriend. Shout out to Corey. I was dating him. Tommy, my husband, is a year younger than me in school. We're the same age, but it's where his birthday fell. Um, so he was a year younger than me. So I was dating Corey my sophomore year. Tommy was a freshman. And he was like, kept talking about his little like friend from elementary school. And I was like, who is this guy? And so he introduced me to Tommy. And my husband played football and baseball and skateboarded. So he was like a little skater kid all over campus, and he was, like, zooming by on his skateboard, and Corey called him over and was like, "Hey, this is my girlfriend," and, like and Tommy was just like, "What's up?" Like, nothing. I'm like, "You're kind of an
Cool.
asshole." Yeah, and I was like, "That's Tommy? That's what you talked about all this time?" And he's like, "Yeah, isn't he so amazing?" I'm like, "No, not really." And so, fast forward, um, a few months later, which Tommy will tell you in his defense, he was like, "I probably thought you were not the nicest person," because I was just like, "This is him?" So I wasn't like, I was just more confused. And then, we were at a football game, and I cheered on varsity from the beginning, and, Tommy ended up making varsity his sophomore year for football. So we were at a JV game because we had to attend, and I had classes with 2 of his friends that I came with, and so they knew who he was. And we have established I'm short, so I can't skip, whatchamacallit, risers, like, when you go sit with him.
Oh, yeah.
So the boys were, like, skipping steps to get up to the top faster, and I, like, tried to skip one, and my foot slid, and so I slid backwards on it, and I thought it was the hilarious thing that I ate shit on the risers, and he was sitting right there, and just throughout the game and stuff, and I was hanging out with his friends, and we were talking, and he was like turned around, he's like, "You are probably, like, the goofiest person I think I have ever met." I was like, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that." And then he asked one of his friends for my numbers afterwards, and he came to a swim party at my house. And yeah, that's where we started talking, and my parents to this
Aw.
day still give him shit for meeting him that day. They're like
Aw.
it's he had on a pair of, Crew, if you know that brand,
Uh-huh.
uh, bathing suit shorts, and they were black with, like, colorful polka dots on them. And he
Uh-huh.
was like, "Aren't these the coolest, like, swim shorts ever?" And my dad's like, "No." He's like, "But look, they have, like, colorful polka dots on them." My dad's like, "Cool story, bro." "No." Like,
Yeah. Who
"What?"
starts that conversation?
Yes. So then later on when I was like, "Oh, I like this guy," my parents are like, "Who is it?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Tommy." They're like, "The one with the swim shorts?" I'm like, "Yeah." My dad's like, "That? That's who you choose?" So,
Aw.
that's how I
They
met
love
him.
him now.
They do, but it's he still has them. So after all of these years, he had oh gosh, what is it? 17 years, I think, this year? 18 years
Jeez.
almost? I know, right? Um, that he they just always joke around. So every time, like, we clean out the closet, he's like, "I cannot get rid of these
Yeah.
shorts." Like,
Yeah.
these are the shorts that started it all. So,
So do you feel well, and were your parents high school sweethearts?
yeah, they were.
Weren't
Yeah.
they? Okay.
They
So
met at 15.
do you feel like you kind of idolized that and, like, hoped for that
No,
at
which is the
all?
super
Or
not at all.
yeah.
Like, Tommy and I are night and day opposites, like, night and day. And even in high school, people are like, "How?"
Yeah.
So, he was the jock football player, party animal, life of the party. Like, Tommy is an
Yeah.
Enneagram 7. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to be around him." And
Right.
then I was like, "Nah, goody two shoes, straight A in all, like, the
Yeah.
honors classes and dance and cheer," and then would, like, leave school to go to work, and he's, like, partying it up till 2 in the morning. So people were like, "Where is the common ground here?" So, it's kept life interesting, but no, I don't think at all. It just I mean, when I met him, I wasn't like, "You're my life partner." So,
Yeah.
it's just kinda like, "This is my high school boyfriend," and then
Yeah.
we just grew together and, you know, still
Aw.
going strong. But yeah,
Yes, I
I mean,
know.
he is the probably the goofiest person because he's just so laid back and, like, there's no filter on his mouth.
What's so funny, so, yeah, Chelsea and I still have not met in person, um,
Right.
but, like, we are ingrained in each other's lives, like, we talk about our husbands, like, my husband knows, so much about Chelsea and, like, her family and stuff,
Yes.
but and vice versa. But, like, we don't talk to I don't know, it's just, like, one of those things when, like, you tell your partner about, like, a coworker, like, all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, Michael showed me a picture of his coworker or something, I'm like, "That's what that person looks like?" Or, like, he has a coworker named Corey, and my family has a history of Corys, like, between my sister and I, we've dated, like, 3 or 4 Corys. And so just
See,
in my
Corey's how I met Tommy.
yeah, and he spelled Corey with a K, and it blew my mind. I was like, "That's how you spell that person's name?" So anyways, he saw a picture that you posted of you and Tommy on Instagram, and he was like, "That's what Tommy looks like?" He's like,
Yes.
"It's so not how I pictured him." I didn't even get into asking like, "Well, how did you picture him?" But it
Yeah,
just
I wanna
made
know
me
this now,
laugh.
Michael.
I know I need to go ask him now. But yeah, it cracked me up. He's like, I wasn't expecting that. That's just not what I had in my head." I was like,
Yeah, I
"Okay."
need to know who you yeah,
I
he
know.
is
I
it's
know.
always funny that people are like, "You guys are
I
such
know.
opposites." I'm like,
Yeah.
it works." It
I
keeps life
know.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how did you meet Mr. Michael?
Um The way that we describe it is that it was a double blind date. So what I mean by that is that I know the minister who married us, he's like, "Did anybody know who was showing up that day?" Um, but so my hairdresser at the time, she was actually like I had known her my entire life. My mom was pregnant with me when she started going to this lady to do her hair. So literally my entire life. And if you're a little girl, you go with your mom to get her hair done. Like I
Oh,
would
I've
go
only
there and
had
I would
2
sit there.
hairdressers my entire
Exactly,
life.
like, they
Yeah.
become part of the family. She was like my auntie, and so, anyways, I was getting my hair done and so it was always she just oh, it was always the gossip. It's like, "How is dating going?" Blah, 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 And, so I was just kinda, telling her, like, "I'm in the dating world, nobody right now," and I got a text message from her, like, a couple weeks after I had seen her, and she said, "I think I have a guy I wanna set you up with." I was like, "Oh, okay." So another lady, um, was getting her hair done, and she was like, "Do you know anybody? I have this neighbor, and he's so wonderful," and blah, blah, and was just going on and on about Mike. And she's like, "He just needs to meet a good girl," blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that was pretty much it. So they both got together and like I think that how was it? He reached out to me on Facebook Messenger first. And um so we connected there and then he called me like that next week. And it was a great conversation, everything. And then we had our first date, and that was pretty much it. We were together. I mean, we were engaged within 7.5 months, I think.
My
So
gosh.
yeah, our romance was very much whirlwind. I mean, by the time we met, I think we were married, we were engaged, married, and I think I was pregnant within I think all within 2 years, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so fast.
I know, it's really fast, but, it's worked out. And
And
you know and I
Mike's
was
older than
always
you, right?
Mike is yeah, he's,
Yeah.
7.5 years older, so I think for I think just based on my personality, like and I think my parents were a little like, "Oh, like, this is fast," but at the same time, I was so picky. Like, I would go on 2 dates and be like, I knew. I'm like, "I'm done. I'm done." Like, I was very picky, and so I think for them, they're like, "Oh, okay. Like, this one okay, we're liking this one more. This one's sticking around more. Okay, okay." So I think for me to be like, "No, this is what we're doing." They're like, "Oh, "Okay." And then for him, he's older, and so I think same deal. He's kind of like, "No, this is what I want." So, yeah, and then we have 2
That's so
babies.
cute.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I feel like I mean, we're definitely opposite in certain ways, but I think it's different than how you guys are opposite. We're like
Yeah.
we both Mike and I both are very, like, type A, like, workaholics, just, like, very, like, eye on the prize sort of people. But I think our variance is more like, I don't know, like, I'm extremely, like, patient, even keeled and stuff, and he's a little feistier.
Oh, no, I have Mr. like, "Let's just go travel the world. Let's go, like, chase the dream," and I'm like, panic. "What is the plan? How are we gonna get there?" And he's like, "I don't know. We'll find our way. We always do." I'm like in my mind, I'm like, "'Cause I'm planning. That's
Yeah,
why." So,
because 'cause I'm back here pulling all the strings.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's
yeah.
yeah, funniness, but, I love that. That's a cute little question.
Mhm.
So,
I do too.
um, another question, what is the hardest part about being a mom and owning your own business?
All of it. No.
Pretty much sums up the whole answer.
I mean, yeah. I d it's hard for me to think about the hardest part because when you talk to me about being a mom and owning a business, like, my immediate thought is, like, I have a lot of pride with that.
Mhm,
Um, and I see so much value in them seeing that. Um And then, like, knowing what that looks like and what it takes to do that. But if we're talking about the hardest part, I mean, balance. It's for
mhm,
sure the balance. I think when you own your own business, people are always like, "Oh, you're gonna own your own business and have all this time, and blah, blah, blah." Well, if you are really running your own business, there's the stress of like, having to, like, hit quotas that
mhm.
you are the person responsible for hitting those quotas, and for me, my mind just has a hard time shutting off. It has a hard time stopping thinking about a new class, a new product, a new avenue, and then all of the things that have to happen for all of that to make sense. So that's been the hardest, is just finding the balance of when to shut down and be in family time, and I've gotten really good about evening times being that, and for the most part, weekends being that. Um, but when it's school time and, like, say they're homesick from school, like, it's I can't really turn stuff off, that's hard. So, I think that would be my hardest part, is being able to, like, shut things down when you own your own business.
Mine, I would say on it is probably the guilt of making sure everybody has everything they need. And with that, like, meaning the balance of there's only so much time in a day, but there's things that I have to get done. Like, I have to answer emails. I have to progress forward on my orders because an order's due in a week. There's the time limits for it, but then still meeting your kids where they need you, because it's not always the same time every day that they need your attention. And then still, like, your husband needing an attention and your animals needing attention and your house. And there's just so many different directions that you're being pulled. So feeling like you're evenly giving everybody what they need. And then the guilt of the days that I can't. Like, obviously, we have the cookie chat. So there's days where I'm like, Melissa, I just cannot make this happen on top of everything going on in my life. And I mean, I feel bad for that. But then I also feel bad for my kids when I'm like, hey, I cannot make this happen because I have to get this done. I will say over the years, it's gotten easier. And as they get older, they realize I'm not just like chilling on my phone scrolling, like, oh, yeah, mom just wants to watch this video. It's like, no, I'm working. So bringing them into it, I've felt helps combat that. Like, they'll watch me make my reels, or I'll say, "Hey, sit next to me while I do this voiceover so you can
Yeah.
see." And then they'll be like, "No, that's not that good." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Now they're like my critics of social media. Like,
Didn't
I'll show
Caden,
them
he
my
told us,
reels.
he's like, "You need to say like and subscribe more."
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. I forgot that. He was like, "All
Like,
the
"Thanks,
real
kid."
YouTubers say this?" Yes. He logged into, like, pulled up my Google for something with school, and it, like, when he clicked into YouTube, I'm logged into, obviously, the Cookie Chat YouTube,
Mhm.
and so he was like, "Mom, you have, like, some subscribers." I'm like, "I know. We worked hard on this." He's like, "But, like, you're not a real YouTuber. Like, there's no zeros behind it, and there's only a K, not an M. Like, Mr. Beast, do you know how many subscribers he has?" I'm like, "How do you know? You don't even have YouTube." Like, what? So, it's funny how they, like, get into it and stuff, or
Mhm.
yeah, it's again, as they've gotten older, it's gotten better. They become your little, like, advertisers and
Oh,
funny
yeah.
things. But, yeah, they watch my reels and they're like, "That one's not very funny." I'm like, "Well, the cookie world thought it was funny."
Cut to the
So,
core. To the core.
yeah. Yes. So, just trying to find that, and I've learned to create that time. Like, I am sad now that the Harry Potter series is done. Like, we read all of
Mhm.
the Harry Potter books, and then we watched all of the movies, and so I can even tell, like, with them, they're like we got so used to that, like, 45 minutes of reading. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dang it." Now it's progressed into, like, I only get on TikTok when I have the kids with me. So we
Yeah.
watch, like, funny family TikTok. So I'm following, like, so many, like, dog
Aw.
accounts for one of my
Yeah.
kids. And, like, world history facts. So we'll spend, like, 15 minutes of quiet time, set a timer, and it's like, you can watch 15 minutes of TikToks with me. So
Aw.
then, like, that becomes a little thing. So it's not
Yeah.
always in the way that, like, I ideally would love that everybody sat down together and ate dinner at the dinner table and did
Yeah.
this. Like, that's not always what life looks like, and just being okay with that. So, I definitely think in the beginning struggled a little bit more when they were younger, but now they think me working is cool.
Yeah.
And like I said, they come in and give me advice on that. Like, I did Among Us cookies this week.
Uh-huh.
My son walks in, he's like, "Not too shabby. Not too shabby." I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "Among Us." I'm like, "Yeah, I thought they looked fine." He's like, "I mean, for you not playing the game, mom, these are pretty good." I'm like, "Thanks, kid." He's like, "No problem, but next time you should probably put imposter right here because that's what that is." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Like, they lend feedback now.
I love
So,
it. I love
yes,
it.
but there's always a struggle somewhere, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of sometimes you have to let go of, like, what you think it should be and kind of
Mhm.
embrace, like, what it is.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, to add to that and kind of on the flip side of it, I have just come to the point in my life with my business where both of our girls were in full-time school. And um, and we've talked about this before, Chelsea and I's journeys and like just business models have been different, but for a long time, I said the hardest thing that I've ever done in my business is having to move slow and
mhm,
having to take it slow because I just, you know, it wasn't in our life model for me to be full time with it, with the girls home so much and just with how Mike's schedule is. And so I had to do it slow, but, like, it was so hard because I knew how to take it, like, bigger, and full time, like, I knew, but I also knew, like, this just wasn't the time in life that made sense for it, and I had to focus on what I had to focus on. And so on the flip side, like, it was really hard. That was really hard to take it slow, but it is okay to take it slow if, like, it just
mhm.
depends on what on your personal needs and what your family needs, I think. But
Right, and now you're taking it hitting the ground running, and I'm like, I'm
yeah.
okay with where my business is at, like,
Yes.
I mean, yes, I have dreams and ambitions of like, "Oh, I could grow this, I can grow that," but then when I realistically set it out, I'm like, "I've done this before, and I know how much time that takes," and right now, I'm just not willing to give up the time that I have invested in other areas to
Well,
move
yeah,
it
and
here.
I think leading into the next thing, like, into the next question, your life has changed so much, it's almost like we flipped we joked about this when we were going into this school year, like, we totally flipped.
Yeah.
I'm finally, like, sending my children, both of them, off to full-time school, and you're like, "And we're gonna homeschool now." So, yeah, like, it's just your life is it's
Yes.
in the flip-flopped phases. So, with that, I know that we had some questions about homeschool. Do you wanna lump all that into one segment here and tell us about it?
Yeah, the homeschool journey has been a journey, and if you go back, we can list the episodes and stuff where we've kind of talked about it. I do have both my kids home for homeschooling. We kind of made the decision with the way that education in our state was moving and not feeling like it was really what it used to be. There was a lot of unknowns and ups and downs, and our kids just weren't enjoying school like my husband and I remembered enjoying school. We both loved the process. Um, so we feel that there's only a short amount of time for children that you can capitalize on making learning fun and making it acceptable to be smart and be this because the world just has so many pressures that try and tell them it's not cool to do that. So, if we could really cultivate that learning culture in our home and progress them forward. So we take the approach, as much as I say Tommy and I are opposite, we're very similar in the sense of like, we both believe just try things out. Like, just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, great. But we don't put any like, it has to meet this expectation. So we were really open on trying different experiences. And we did like homeschool pod in the very beginning, which it was so fun and the kids enjoyed parts of it, but then there was parts of it that weren't working with our schedules, and it is hard sometimes when you have a group of kids together versus your own. My kids, they sh- thrive. They like reach for it, they throw all of that on a schedule, and I think that has been from me owning a business and just who I am in general is there has to be a schedule. I cannot live in a like fly by the whim of my seat and see if these custom orders get done. So I noticed when it wasn't a scheduled day, they were like floundering. So we kind of shifted gears, and we decided to take on a semester of a program just to see if it worked for them. That is more, when I say this, so many moms are gonna be like PTSD. Um, Digital learning in COVID, where it was like
Dun, dun,
I know.
dun.
So I'm like, I hesitate to say it because I want to preface it by saying digital learning during COVID done correctly and with the most
Well,
amount
these
of
are for
resources.
kids who are, like, actively wanting to do it this way and excel at it
Correct.
this way, and
Yeah.
teachers who excel at it this way, not teachers just being thrown
Exactly, that's why I say,
to
like,
the wolves.
done correctly, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
it's a program
mastered.
made for this, yeah.
Correct, and they have mastered how to have children digitally learn at all ages, so it's
Mhm,
not like I have to be there, like, switching the Zoom rooms and logging you in and muting the mics, like, no,
mhm,
it's been amazing, so, we're trying that out for this semester because my kids were progressing rapidly, which is great, but I was like, "I don't even know how quickly do I move you through this?" Because I don't
mhm,
want it just to be a, "Oh, we've hit that point," but are they really, like, processing it, and how are they learning from it? So, we decided to adapt and try this out, and so far, it's been absolutely amazing, and they both enjoy it. There are definitely I have some reels coming up this week that are, like, day in my life
mhm.
because people always are like, "How do you manage it?" So, there's about 2 solid hours. I shouldn't it's not even full 2 solid hours. It's like an hour and 30 minutes where my house is silent because, like, my husband's in his office area, like, working, and my kids are on their computers working, and then the rest of the day is, like, they do come in, but they bring in their laptops, and they'll do, like, their homework in my cookie room on the floor or set timers, and again, they're very independent, so I can tell them, like, "Hey, go do your playlist, hit your things," and then I can always double check, so that has been very nice, but they're also getting really good at knowing what's coming, so then they'll work ahead. So then certain days are like, "I have no schoolwork today." I'm like, "How? What are you gonna do the rest of your day?"
Yeah, you gotta figure this out, kid, that's your problem.
Yeah, so but my kids are great at, like they're like they'll binge watch something. So, like, my son was like, "I'm gonna binge watch the whole entire Star Wars." I'm like, "Okay." But then they'll, like, do drawings of Star Wars throughout the day, or they'll, like, go back and sketch, or then they're like that night when we do our, like, wind down of TikToks, like, "Can we watch, like, fun facts about how this was created behind the scenes?" So then after they
Aw.
finish something, they end up watching, like, a whole, like, documentary series on so they love stuff like that, and it just keeps them, or my daughter will just go onto the digital library and fly through books. So,
Aw.
yeah, that's kind of our journey. So it is definitely a balance. I have to stay motivated to work because it does get disrupted throughout the day. It's not like you can just put your headphones on and in and zone out the whole day, like I used to be able to do when they were at physical school. And then when they were done, I'm like, okay, cool. At least like I can work maybe through some of this. No, it becomes a lot of start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So I have to make sure that things that distract me. Sometimes I get really bad at answering text messages because I'm like, if I get on a whirlwind of this or a deep conversation, like it's just going to give me another reason not to get back to work. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a lot of
totally.
self discipline.
Do you find yourself having to handle, like, detailing sessions differently or planning the cookie sessions differently? Because, like, for me, I have a really hard time like, I need, like, zone out creativity flow time to do my cookies. So, like, if I know that it's gonna get broken up in, like, 30 minutes or something like that, then I'm like, "Okay, then stop. I'm gonna, like, have to do it a different day." So do
Not
you
at
have to
all.
handle it any
I
differently
have to.
or, like, you've just never like, it did you handle that differently when the kids were at school versus how you do it now?
I did just because I had the hours to zone out and work. Like there was no disruption. So it is what it is. But prior to my kids being in school, when I started my business, I had both of them home and they were, I think, 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 when I
Mhm.
started. So trying to manage a 3 and 4 year old and then working full time.
Yeah.
So it just has kind of gone back to that, but
Yeah.
in an easier sense. Um, some days, if it's a really stressful set or a set that I'm just like, I am not into this theme, sucks. And
Yeah.
I have another day, sometimes I'm like, if I know it's a crazy chaotic day or they have projects due or I have to pop into meetings, I'll pick my easier sets, but
Mhm.
I have mastered at this point the amount of time everything takes. So I
Mhm.
know, like, this is how many sets I have to hit by the end of the day. And if not, like, I'm gonna be behind tomorrow, which is I'm a very personally motivated person. If something has to get done, I'm like, I don't care how busy my day is, I'll make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
But it has to, like, that time has to be allowed. So I have to communicate with them like, yo, I have to sit down and work now.
Mhm.
And you get one interruption. If you interrupt me more than that, I get the right to say, like,
Yeah.
pause. You got to
Yeah.
come back to me. So I've asked them on certain days, like, hey, make a running list of all the questions you want to ask me or all the things you want to tell me. Cause they'll come in and be like, Mom, did you know? Da, 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 da. Which I love hearing their facts, but sometimes I'm like, I can't keep
Mhm.
stopping and listening to this. So they make running lists. So then when I'm done, I'm like, all right, give me your list. And they're like,
Yeah.
did you know the color blue was originated from blah, blah, blah? Did you know this? I'm like,
Are
but it
you ever
also,
like, "Could you go tell your dad that?"
no, because my husband is like, I'm on a meeting. Like, I can't have them in the
Yeah.
background. There's a call. I'm like, so sometimes I'll walk in and I'm like, dude, no, like they can come in here. So yeah, when he's on lunch, I'm like, go talk to your dad. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I feel like we've just gotten a lot better of mastering like our schedules and stuff like that, especially with him working from home. The kids home, we're all home together 24/7. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
not that quiet time. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that it's going so well.
Thank you.
I
I get
am
extra
happy
time
to
with my
hear.
kids, and I think that's the best thing at the end of the day is
Yeah.
when they're 18, I'm gonna be like, "I got all this time with you."
And guys, if this sounds like there could not be anything you would want to do less, don't feel bad.
Oh, yeah,
Okay?
Melissa's
Like,
like, "Not at all."
you get to see both sides here, okay? Like, but that's what Chelsea and I have always said, like, there are kids who are made for that and families
Yes,
who, like, that makes sense for. My children would not thrive, nor would I in that situation. So,
and I think
like,
you have to know your kid and know your
totally.
capabilities, and it
Yeah.
it does not work for everyone, and
Yeah.
again, going back to that, our picture in our mind of what we expect it to be and reality of what it is,
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to brace
I
the
love that
reality.
I get to see this through your lens though, because just I know your kids' personalities through like everything that I've learned,
Mhm.
through us doing this together. So I'm really happy that I get to see a homeschool journey in like a really healthy way that makes sense and know that it's not for me, but I really love getting to see it and like how it works.
Yes. Well, thank you. I
So,
appreciate that.
yeah, it's really cool. Well, I love doing these episodes. It's so fun, and I feel like the best way if you ever have, like, questions that you wanna be involved in a Q&A are hit us up on Instagram and on Patreon. I feel like we try and do them like, maybe once a month, once every other
Mhm.
month. But those are the ways to, like, kind of stay tuned and afloat of, like, when we're gonna be asking for you guys to submit questions. So, thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Next week we are taking off. It is our spring break, so we will be doing spring breaky things, and then we will be back that following week with a Patreon exclusive episode. So come check it out over there. We will be talking all things marketing and all of our tips and tricks and things to do there. So, with that being said, can you sign us out, Chelsea?
I'm Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ,
I'm Melissa with Missy P Sweets. May your cakes never be dry.
and your icing be shiny and crater free. Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.